Good morning, everybody. And again, welcome to It All Counts, the podcast where we learn together, we continue to grow together. This is a fun morning for me. I got up early this morning, about 5:30, worked out, did a lot of push-ups, sit-ups, actually did jumping jacks, drank my coffee, and then at 7:30, I was excited to take my daughter to school. And I love doing that every morning because we get a chance. So I get a chance to listen to her, the music she listens to, exciting music, some of the stuff. Now I see what my mom meant when I used to listen to certain things, but it was great always dropping her off just to see her and feel good about that. And then after I dropped her off at around 8:30, my wife and I, we work out together. The traffic was smooth here in Orlando. The weather was pretty good. It's been hot lately, but it's been pretty good. It was good this morning. My wife and I had a great chance to work out. And we go about from 8:45 to probably 10 a.m. A lot of different workouts, treadmill. I'm more of a walking on the treadmill, incline, and she's treadmill for a long time. But I'll do mix it up with the bike. Not a big elliptical guy. For some reason, it doesn't feel so good with my knees, but that's okay. But we got our workout in. And then once we get home after that, our day counter starts on our to-do list, so to speak, because what she does in the morning while I take my daughter to school, she walks our dog. So that's always a fun time, and we do it together on weekends. But again, back to the podcast, and let's have a great time. I've had my third cup of coffee now, and thanks to Carlos here at Hi Hello Lab. He fills me up with great coffee. His espressos are great, mixed with just enough sugar and almond milk, so it's good to the soul. But again, for me, the why and why I wanted to do It All Counts, the podcast, because we experience so many things in life, ups, downs, highs, and lows, and ultimately, it's the bottom line or the finish line of where we're trying to get to. And I think I'll talk about different things or how we get to certain points as a coach and as a teacher, and I always keep my notebook with me, and that's really my playbook, and I always have it. I like to write things down, though I have my laptop, my iPads, but I love to write things down because it inspires me to see it and go over it. And hopefully down the years, it'll be something my kids, my grandkids can see that my dad or my grandpa wrote it down. I like to know people that's my writing. That's important to me. But as we go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to It All Counts. And again, we will learn and grow together. My role, and I'll go back to a story that I've talked about in the previous podcast about as a college guy, my freshman year, we played at the University of Illinois. And for those that aren't familiar, I went to Purdue University. And we played at Illinois. And I was one of the top guys coming out of high school. And it was a big game. A lot of family was there because East St. Louis, where I grew up at, is probably about 2 hours and 15 minutes from Champaign, Illinois, where the University of Illinois is located. And we were playing those guys, a great atmosphere, a lot of orange and blue in the building, a lot of orange and blue. They had great fan base, great environment. Lou Henson, one of the best coaches in the history of the Big Ten coaching. And our sideline is Coach Gene Cady, mean, feisty, tough, hard-nosed. So it was a great game. Unfortunately, in that great game, I only played about 45 to maybe a minute and 15 seconds. So didn't play a lot. So it was a very humbling experience for me. Again, being one of the top high school players coming out of high school, and a lot of people thought that I was going to the University of Illinois coming out of high school, but I chose Purdue. So only playing a few seconds, a minute or two, it was a tough pill to swallow. And after the game, I'll never forget my mom. We meet at the bus. My mom comes back, and she gives the coach, Coach Cady, a Hallmark card, basically like, thank you, Coach, for all you're doing. I think she might have gave Hallmark cards to the assistant coaches because at that time it was 3 assistant coaches. And she gave me a Hallmark card, and, whatever she always put in, she still does that today. A lot of Hallmark cards, Christmas, all the time. She sends me stuff all the time, which is great, and I keep a lot of that. And but she also asked me, was I reading my Bible? And at that time, I really wasn't. I had it with me, but I wasn't really reading it because I was so focused on trying to be a successful basketball player. So I wasn't reading at the level I needed to. And I think in that story, my mom, what she didn't call Coach Cady to complain about why wasn't he playing, why didn't he play. That wasn't her focus as a mother because she understood the task at hand. She was more proud about her son being in college, working toward getting a degree. Of course, if the basketball works out, great, but her focus was her son being successful in life so he can ultimately live a good life. But in the lessons I took from that, on me trying to get to the road to success, to be able to play and be a successful basketball player. Yes, one day if I was able to get a degree, great. But for me at that time, at 19 years old, the whole goal was trying to be the best basketball player I could become. And I'll never forget when we got back from that game, maybe a couple of days later, I had a chance to go into Coach Katie's office and just simply ask him, Coach, how can I get on the floor more? What will it take for me to play? And all that he said, I don't have everything word for word in what he said, but ultimately what he said, he was already saying, and I guess it was just a case I wasn't absorbing information. I wasn't really listening because I probably figured out how I needed to play in order to be successful and what I thought should be the way I need to play and be successful. But after that, maybe the next game, maybe a game or two after that, I ended up doing the things that he talked about, and I'm earning a starting position, and I never looked back. And I think that might have been our first Big Ten game at Illinois, and I don't think I ever looked back at that point as far as being a starter and having a level of success at Purdue. But the things for me, and when I talk about it all counts, the 10 steps that it kind of took me to get where I needed to go in order to be successful. And sometimes that road is bumpy, but if you can learn from it and grow from it, you'll be very successful in life. And the first thing was being responsible and accountable to do your job. And what does that mean? So if you're working with a team, what is your job? Well, for me, Coach Katie wanted me to be, as a freshman, he wanted me to be a great defender, a ball mover, not necessarily shoot the ball. Now, mind you, coming out of high school, I was one of those guys that scored a lot of baskets. But my role now at Purdue was distribute the basketball, set good screens, rebound, play great defense, and allow the other guys to be scorers. If you have an open shot, take the open shot, or take the layups, or get offensive rebounds, that sort of thing, but don't allow shooting to be your first option. So for me, that was an adjustment in itself, coming from high school where you're able to score a lot of baskets. Then it talked about time management. Time management, that is a major adjustment from transition from high school to college. And time management for me is how do you develop good habits? So for me, one is being on time. Coach Katie always talked about getting to class and try to sit in the front of the class. And I didn't do that all the time because I'm not sure if I was confident enough to obviously sit in every class, but I would get to class and try to be on time and do my job. So to be on time, develop good habits. Be at practice on time. What does that mean? Be prepared on time. So in Coach Katie's practices, if practice started at 3 p.m., you should be on the floor ready to go by 2:30. Even though practice started at 3 p.m., you should be ready to go by 2:30 unless you had a class where you were running late. So it's developing good habits. So it's getting good rest, study time, knowing to be where you're supposed to be, and ultimately developing those good habits requires, again, time management. And then the other thing was work ethic. What does that mean? Everybody talks about work ethic, how hard you need to work, how consistent you need to work, what do you need to work on? Well, for me, it was the development of how I need to become a better basketball player. Well, I didn't set a lot of screens in high school, so I spent time working at how to set screens. How to set screens, as simple as that, because my role was not shooting a lot of basketballs anymore. So how do you learn how to set screens? How do you learn how to study? How do you manage time to study, put time aside? Because I didn't spend a lot of time like that in the classrooms in high school, but now in college, you have to manage time 2 hours out of your window a day to learn how to study. That's a part of your work ethic, not always on the court, but off the court. To be self-motivated. That was a hard one for me as a freshman because I was a guy, again, you go from playing a lot to not playing as much. Not that I had thoughts of quitting, but people get stuff and man, you probably want to transfer. And that wasn't a thought for me. So how do you become self-motivated when your home base, your source of support is no longer around? Because my safe haven with my family, friends, my high school coach, of course, my mom, well, those people aren't around. So how do you become self-motivated? Well, you got to get up and do it early. So if Coach Katie said be at practice at 3, try to be there at 2:15 to be there, be on time, be ready, working early so he can see you working, so you develop good habits. But also becoming self-motivated when you're not playing. Like, for example, I'll never forget when Coach Katie said to me, I just want you to shoot layups, set screens, get rebounds. I don't want you shooting the ball unless you were wide open. Well, that's a tough blow when you're used to shooting basketball. So now you got to continue to self-motivate yourself to do other things, because he didn't say, I didn't want you to be successful. I didn't want you to score. He said, I just want you to stop shooting perimeter shots. So now I have to motivate myself to do other things, to work on other parts of my basketball game in order to be productive for my team. The other thing, listening and absorbing information. And that is very important because even at my age today, oftentimes somebody's talking, my phone, I'm texting, that sort of thing. So I try to do a very good job of listening and absorbing information. Now, information is different for everybody. How we absorb and process information is different for everybody and all ages. So that part is understood. But the key is what's good for you might not be good for somebody else. What books are you reading? Are you continuing to learn? Who are you learning from? All these things are very important in life. To gain good information, absorb it, listening to it, and growing from it. The second thing, learning how to contribute. Learning how to contribute. Well, again, like I talked about, when you go from scoring a lot of basketballs in high schools and now all of a sudden you have to be able to set screens, play defense, and your role is totally different, but it helps the team win when the coach says, this is what I want you to do. You have to embrace that role. You can't complain about it. You have to be a team player and accept that role and move forward. And that was a tough one for me. But in order for our team to win, if I wanted to be on the floor, I had to learn how to contribute that way. Working to improve my skills. So out of high school, I was a guy that slashed and made a lot of plays that way, but I wasn't a ball handler, I wasn't a shooter. So you're talking about hours and hours of ball handling and shooting to improve my game and ultimately to get on the floor and to help my teammates. Believing in my abilities. Well, that was a hard part when you're struggling because oftentimes coaches said, don't lose your confidence, keep your confidence. Well, it's hard if you're not playing a lot. So how do you continue to believe in your abilities when things aren't going your way? Who do you lean on? Do you stay focused? Do you continue to work or do you give up? You have to stay consistent. So what I did when Coach Katie told me to stop shooting basketballs in the game, what I did, I still worked on it after practice, early in the morning, late at night. I continued to work on my shots so I could be ready when my number was called or when I felt confident enough to shoot the basketball. I had to be ready. Then you have to have a competitive spirit. When you're trying to be the best, you're working towards something. You have to have a competitive spirit. So even in practice, when I wasn't playing a lot, guys were playing in front of me. That was tough, but I didn't complain about it. I didn't make excuses. But what I did try to do, like we had a guy on the team when I was a freshman, Woody Austin was a great player, phenomenal shooter. I think he averaged 18 or 19 points a game. He was a senior that I kind of followed his lead as a freshman. Well, if I wasn't playing a lot, my competitive spirit forced me to push him every day in practice to make him better. So now all of a sudden, come game time, he was ready to go because I gave him my best effort in hopes that it would help him be ready for the game. But in the process, because he was such an elite scorer, he helped make me better. And then we became a better team. You also have to seek and embrace feedback. You have to seek and embrace feedback. And I think that's hard for a lot of young people. I knew it was hard for me because I wouldn't necessarily say I was a person that was shy, but just how to communicate that I need help. Can you show me how to work on my ball handling? Can you show me how to set screens? Can you show me the technique of how you want me to block out or how you want me to come off this screen or how you want me to set this back screen? All these things. So pulling the coach to the side or going into his office and asking these questions and not being shy about it, not being afraid to ask those questions, but to seek that feedback because it's the only way to grow. If somebody have more experience in doing it, then they can only help you, but you can't be afraid to seek that advice and counsel. The third thing is sacrifice. You have to be willing to give up something in order to get something. If you give more time to your development, what will you give up? And I think this separates a lot of student athletes when they're college experience and how they give up time, what they make time for. Because on Fridays, Saturday nights in the college experience, you want to hang out, have a good time, go to restaurants, go to parties. Okay, that's great, but how much time are you spending on the basketball court? How much time are you spending getting better? How much time are you spending in the classroom to make that sacrifice? If you're struggling in the classroom, to be great in the classroom, how much time are you giving to that? I think that is very important. And for me, the sacrifice, if I wanted to play in the actual games, I had to improve my ball handling, I had to improve my decision making, I had to improve my skills, I had to improve my shooting. I was a guy that took the ball out, so there was a lot of pressure involved, so I had to make great decisions with the basketball. So that means that took time away from the Friday and Saturday night. So let me get in there on Sundays to work on my game to continue to get better so I can be prepared and ultimately so I'm good enough, but also help my team win games. The fourth thing, dig deep for grit and determination to raise your expectations. Because oftentimes when you're down, you're not confident, you figure, what's the point? I'll wait my time, I'll wait my turn. But you got to dig deep and find the inspiration and the determination to keep going and continue to grow. Don't allow your impatience setbacks or failures to discourage you. You have to keep pushing forward. You have to learn from those mistakes, because they can only help you grow if you learn from them. Don't sulk in them. Don't make excuses about it. Don't point fingers at coach. Well, coach didn't do this, coach didn't do that. Because again, you already have all the gifts inside of you. It's just a matter of how we get them out. How do we expose them to the world? How do you present your skills on the basketball floor? So again, don't allow setbacks, impatience because you don't see it right away. I'll never forget my freshman year. We were lifting weights in that weight room, and I went into college maybe like 185, and playing in the Big Ten, it was such a physical league. Guys bumping around, banging me. I'm like, oh God, this is tough. And I never lift weights in high school. And I'm sitting there thinking, boy, this won't ever happen again. And that summer, going into my sophomore year, I went from 185, somewhere around at 180, 185 to 215 pounds. And I just said, I can't allow myself to get pushed around like that anymore. And I allowed those situations of getting bumped and banged and bruised, great players like Jim Jackson, you name all these talented guys. I got to get in this weight room and get better so I can hold my own. And it really helped me. But I wasn't discouraged and I didn't give up. So if I couldn't lift weights, it was some level of push-ups. I had to do something. The fifth thing, success must live inside of you. And you have it in you. But the keys with that is maturity. And I think part of maturity, yes, is growing in your basketball skill development. But you have to grow in the criticism area. You have to be able to take constructive criticism or critical criticism. Sometimes that can be detrimental. It can break your spirits. But can you learn from that? Again, I'll go back to when Coach Katie said to me, "Zoe, you're doing a lot of good things, but I don't want you to shoot the basketball." I was 0 for 6 from the three-point line in my sophomore year. I was 0 for 6 from three-point line. This may be after 10 or 12 games. And Coach said, "I don't want you to shoot any more threes for the rest of the year." Well, again, that takes maturity to be able to absorb that, deal with it, and keep moving forward, as opposed to complaining about it, calling home about it, or sulking about it. I want to transfer. Coach doesn't like me. Why is he treating me like this? Well, Coach felt that was the best thing for me and for our team in order for us to be successful. So that meant stop shooting threes. And I did it. And I grew from it, but it didn't stop me from working. Then also the discipline piece. The discipline, and that's a hard part, even in life. What are you willing to say no to? In order to be successful, what are you willing to say no to? How hard are you willing to work to be on the floor? Do you have the discipline enough to listen to what coach is saying, to do the mundane things every day, to work on your game, to eat breakfast every morning? There were times as a coach, we would make breakfast mandatory. And guys would look at it, man, why coach got us getting up to eat breakfast in the morning? Why do we need to do that? Man, this is helping you, not me. I want you to eat breakfast every morning. If that's an important meal and it's an important part to get your day started, let's get up and eat breakfast every morning. So we started making it mandatory. And at first it was uncomfortable for guys, but then it became a case where guys look forward to it because we would sit down and hang out. And they got a chance to know the coaches on a different level. It wasn't necessarily this guy that coaches in the office. I see him in his office. I see him on the court. They see you more on a personal level, and you develop that level of relationship, which ultimately was a great thing. So now they got the breakfast, they got their day going, and they built better relationships with the coaching staffs. Commitment. You have to commit to something. Again, I remember not being a good ball handler, and I was discouraged about it. So what do? It's like, man, it takes so long to improve my ball handling. I should have been a better ball handler out of high school. So now I'm in college. I struggle with my ball handling. How do I get better at it? Do I complain about it? Do I quit and give up? Do I wait till the whole year's over and the summertime start working? And I start working on it right there. I was working on just simple ball handling drills to improve my ball handling, to improve my left hand, to improve my right hand, to get better at my ball handling, to handle against talented teams that would press. They would put so much pressure in, like Iowa in the Big Ten was one of the best teams at pressing you. And I'll never forget, I did so much ball handling going into my summer. One of my teammates, Tim Irvin, we would work on ball handling drills all the time, and I couldn't turn my back. We would dribble full court, one-on-one. And I couldn't turn my back. He was a quick, fast athlete. And every time I'd face up, he'd steal a ball. And I got better and better at it because, again, the rules, you can't turn your back. You got to be straight up, and you got to handle the ball down the court, full court. And I improved. And I'll never forget that next year we played against UConn in the Springfield Classic, Hall of Fame Classic, if I'm not mistaken. And they were a team that had athletes, and they pressed. And I brought the ball up in a lot of cases against their press, and that felt so good. Just that achievement of working on my ball handling to improve it, and now you're going against one of the best teams in the country, against a tough press, long athletes, to be effective in making decisions with the basketball, and that was great for me. And then just the dedication to consistently do it and not give up about it and commit to it. Number 6, don't allow negative voices to become a distraction. They're only there to block you from pursuing your goals. It's very important. A lot of people struggle with criticism. I've struggled with it, not so much as a player, because I'll never forget my college coach. He would always say, don't read your press clippings, because he said, when you read good things, you'll be high as a hog. And then when you read negative things, you'll be sick as a dog. So I never really read the press clippings back then. There was a lot of newspapers back then. It wasn't so much social media. And so I kept a lot of newspapers. I have newspapers I've had for years in boxes. And then obviously social media comes along. Then being a coach, the big people have been critical of you as a coach or me as a coach. You got to deal with that as part of it. You can't allow that to break your spirits. And I'll never forget having tough losses when I was at Missouri State as a head coach in my first year back, 2008, 2009. And then you hear negative things, which it goes with the territory. And I'll never forget, I was in bed. I'm normally early rising in the office, 6, 7 in the morning, sometimes earlier. And I was just in the bed, after several tough losses. And I'll never forget my wife just saying, you're the leader of the program. What do you want your program to see? What do you want your players to see? You have to continue to lead in spite of. And I've never forgot that message. And for me, it was up early in the morning, deal with criticism. You got to keep moving forward. And it's not easy, because everybody wants to be liked at some level. You want to be appreciated for the work that you're doing. But it goes with the territory, and it's sometimes a tough lesson to learn. You have to learn from your struggles. It's an important skill that can lead to growth and future success if you can learn from your struggles. I've had many struggles as a player. You miss big shots, turnovers. I've had situations as a coach, man, I wish I could take that back. I wish I could have done that better. Even in recruiting prospects, I wish we'd have did this better. You have to learn from these things. These things can be tough, because you lose key prospects, talented players in recruiting. You go back and say, well, what if we would have done this? What if I could have done this better? You have to learn from those struggles. But you also have to be able to look in the mirror. There's nothing wrong with looking in the mirror. Some of the toughest times for me after struggle is looking in the mirror. And you have to deal with those scars, because if handled properly, they can lead to success. So being able to learn from struggles and failures, they will help you grow. You have to be clear about what you want. The more committed you are, the clearer your vision becomes. And I think that is important. So for me as a prospect, when I wanted to become a great three-point shooter, because in 2 years of college, I was 0 for 7 from the three-point line. So going into my junior year, it was hours and hours. I was shooting 500 three-point shots a day outside of working a job, getting up in the morning for rehab, weightlifting as a team. Then we play at night as a team, then finding some time several nights and working on my individual skills after we play. But I had a vision, and I was clear about I wanted to become an elite three-point shooter, because I was struggling with the fact that people didn't guard me on the perimeter, because I wasn't a three-point shooter. I was a guy that slashed, and I improved my ball handling, so I was able to get to the basket. I was able to offensive rebound. I was a good defender, but the three-point shot, I was struggling. So going into that summer, 92, 93 summer, it was just 93 summers, a lot of three-point shots all around all the time. That's all. I didn't work on a lot of other things, but three-point shooting. And I'll never forget, because I was clear about what I wanted to become. When we had 5-on-5 workouts, and this was in September when school was just about starting, the coaching staff were out there, and we were playing 5-on-5. And I had so much confidence because I spent so much time in working on my three-point shot. I would stop and pull up for a three-point shot on a 3-on-1 break. For those who don't know what that is, we have 3 guys on offense and 1 defender. And if I had the ball in my hand, I would pull up for a 3-point shot on a 3-point break. And I felt I had more confidence in my 3-point shot than I did in layups, because I felt that good about it. I had that much confidence, but I grew into it with all the time and the work I put into it. But I was clear about what I wanted to become, but there was a lot of work involved. Then number 9, the continuous learning. You have to continue to seek guidance from your coaches, your teachers, great players, and technology. And what I mean by technology, film study. One of the things that I used to learn as a player, when you watch a game film after the game, good or bad, because I didn't get so consumed with, okay, yeah, of course you want to watch games, you score 25, 30 points. Yeah, that's great. But what I tried to learn and grow as a player when I got older in college to really understand film study is, how did I move without the ball? Did I block out on defense? How was my passing? How was my decision making? How was my ability to lead my teammates? How was my body language? Was I an encourager on the court? So I watched a lot of film, but nowadays you can watch film and study because you can find so many great teams, individual players, teams all over the world. I've studied a lot from international teams, how they run their offense, how they play defense, how they pass, how they utilize big guys. So film study technology is so advanced, so there's so much you can learn from the game. You can learn from great coaches as well as great players. So that part is great, but you also can learn from technology. Like, for example, there are shooting machines that now you can shoot with these machines, and they'll give you how many shots you took, the percentage of the shots, the arc of the shot. All this information will help you grow. So now you don't need a lot of people rebounding for you. You can get in the gym by yourself and have a great workout. So it's very important to do that, because I remember back in college, it was just my teammate. He would rebound for me, or student managers, they would rebound for me, and it could be hours, but it was a part of it. And then number 10, with hard work and focus, you will see real progress. With hard work and focus, you will see real progress. In most cases, results will come when you're focused on achieving your goals. So you have to be focused on the task at hand. What are you trying to do? And oftentimes for me, and I started doing this in college, especially when I started working on my three-point shot at a high level, I would always write down stuff. So since I would say since I was probably 20, 21 years old, I would write down everything and I would put a date on it, because I could see it at that point. And that's why I love writing notes. Yes, like I said, I have laptops, I have apps and that sort of thing. But for me, writing it down with a pen and paper feels good, because that means I wrote it, I did it, people can see it, it's mine. And to be able to focus on achieving my goals, just like improving as a three-point shooter. And still to this day, I still hold the percentage for three-point shooting at Purdue University. And I had the record for a while. I made 179 in 2 years. And for me, that was a lot of threes. A guy that goes from not shooting them at all to improving as a three-point shooter. So that's something I've always been proud about. Just, yes, you make shots, but the ability to reach and chase a goal, and it worked out for me. Then the other thing, eating and hydrating properly. I think that is very important. And oftentimes you don't have the types of foods, depending on where you come from. Some come from humble beginnings, so you don't have access to a lot of quality of foods, but you want to try to get the right things in you as best you can, drinking a lot of water. And if you're not sure about that, talk to your coaches, your school teachers, your principal. Talk to somebody about the type of foods you want to put into your system, because if you're fueling yourself as an athlete, you want to have the right stuff in you. And then with that being said, you want to be well conditioned. You want to be a supreme athlete as best you can be, as taking care of your body. And that's what you're putting in your body. You don't want to put bad things in your body, because it's hard to maximize your gifts if you're putting the wrong things in your body. And then you have to have a peace of mind. And what I mean by a peace of mind is understanding that there will be bad days. But bad days are a part of your journey. Don't let it consume you where it takes your whole day. It's just a part of it. Having a peace of mind and know tough times, hard times, I'll overcome them, I'll be okay. And then ultimately, you want to be well rested. And that means relaxing, but also getting sleep. And even the best athletes take days off. You look at some of the best in the world, you have to take days off in order for your body to recover. So you have to rest your body, you have to get sleep. But with all that being said, everything you need to be successful is inside of you. It's already in you. You just have to have someone to help you pull it out. You have to seek counsel to pull it out. You have to look for advice, whether you're looking for books, teachers, coaches, find that advice. And the thing I struggled with early was asking questions. Because again, I guess I'll use the word shy or just unsure of yourself on asking questions, how to grow and get better. Because oftentimes we don't ask questions because we don't want to seem unintelligent, which is crazy. Ask questions, seek counsel, seek advice, because again, it all counts. And that's what this is all about. We enjoy having you here. We will continue to learn. We will continue to grow together. We're a team in this thing. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's been a great day, and remember, it all counts. Cuonzo Martin, thank you for your time.